This is a Heart and Hand production. Everyone, welcome to an update show after the news broke today that Rangers had appointed their 18th permanent manager. Michael Beale has arrived. I'm sure you're all shocked to hear that after what has been a fairly straightforward build-up, it's fair to say, to this job. He was the number one target, obviously. Rangers went for him after the dismissal of Giovanni van Bronckhorst, and he has been confirmed and, in fact, met up with everyone and took training today at Rangers. The announcement from the club reads, Michael Beale is the 18th manager of Rangers, with the club delighted to confirm his appointment today. Signing a contract till 2026, the 42-year-old joins from his role as manager of Queen's Park Rangers in West London, having previously worked as first-team coach at Ibrox from 2018 to last November. It is an exciting appointment for the club, with Beale undoubtedly one of the most sought-after young managers in British football. Indeed, in his previous time at Rangers, he tirelessly supported manager Stephen Gerrard and the technical staff in working towards winning title number 55 in 2021, while the club under Gerrard was relaunched on the European stage and built a superb reputation once there. Beale has strong existing relationships with many members of the first team squad and of course fully understands the unique nature of Rangers Football Club and the demands and standards that come with representing the club. To date, his coaching career has seen him hold roles with the academies at Chelsea and Liverpool, as assistant manager at Sao Paulo in Brazil, and also as first team coach at Rangers and Aston Villa before he took the QPR league job in the summer. Beale will now have time to prepare his squad at the Rangers training centre, with his first competitive game coming on December 15th at home to Hibernian, albeit Jers will first host Bayer Leverkusen in a friendly match on December 10th. Rangers would like to put on record their thanks to Queen's Park Rangers for the professional manager in which they have conducted negotiations. Neil Banfield, Harry Watling and Damien Matthew will all join Michael at Rangers, and further appointments will be confirmed in the days ahead. Joining me to discuss this are a plethora of star names. First of all, the wonderful David Marshall.
Evening, guys.
The fabulous Martyn Ramsey.
Evening, gents, evening, listeners.
And the delectable Stevie Clifford.
Good evening, everyone.
Now, Stevie, you are a long-time, huge, big fan of Michael Beale. Do you have a tumescent phallus?
No comments, probably the best answer I can give.
Yeah, it's a sensible one to go with. But yeah, your thoughts on this appointment?
Yeah, I'm really excited. There's no point in lying about it. I think it's the correct appointment. I think it's one that makes perfect sense. And I think that you've got somebody that's really excited and really passionate to be here. Somebody that knows the club. I know it's an old cliche, David, that it's maybe not the most important thing. Sometimes a freshness can be nice, but Michael Beale 1 year ago knew exactly what was needed at Rangers, and a year on, I still don't think it's changed massively. So I'm hopeful that he's able to hit the ground running. He knows the Scottish scene, and he knows the club inside out. So it's one that I'm very pleased about. I understand people might have reservations, but I think that we all know the type of character Michael Beale is, and I'm really excited and really happy that he's here.
Martyn, on to someone who perhaps does have those reservations Stevie discussed.
Well, yeah, the Rangers were not bringing in a manager without reservations. I think that's fairly obvious. I know you have made this point a few times that the kind of names that we were seriously linked with, and genuinely could have got, is maybe a reality check for just where this job is, maybe being a bit different from where we think it should be in terms of the wider market. And the big issue is that he's been a football manager for about half an hour. People will, I'm sure, raise the few successful Rangers managers for whom that was their first job, and that's absolutely fine. It's the sensible choice, I think. I don't think there were any other options that really got, or certainly quoted options, that really got the heart rate running. He does know the club, he does know the league, he does know the challenges involved, the pressures involved in being part of Rangers, different being part of a team and obviously leading that team. But yeah, I think it made sense. But yeah, naturally there are concerns, there are doubts. He has a defined skill set. We know that because he's obviously been here and carried out a certain job, and eventually successfully carried that out. That doesn't always translate to being the Rangers manager, which, as we've talked about umpteen times, has different challenges, different pressures, different responsibilities than simply being out on the grass. So it is a huge leap. But he has a lot of goodwill with the support, very popular. Part of that team wasn't really affected negatively by the manager's departure a year ago. So I think he has a lot of goodwill, a lot of credit there. So that is a huge, huge thing. We have bigger issues, I think, than simply just this job. We have a squad that needs gutted, and whether that credit survives him in terms of giving him pretty much a free hit until the summer to really rip that up and start again. It's nice in theory, and when we're on Seagulls or whatever talking about a manager coming in at this kind of stage of the season, and we talk about that often. It's a completely different ballgame when it's your club and you're associated with disappointing results and whatever else. So big challenge, but yeah, the sensible choice, I think.
David?
Yeah, I'm kind of on a same line of thought as Martyn there. He was the guy, a year ago when Gerrard left, that would have been my first choice. A year down the line and another manager down the line. Yeah, there is some reservations there. There is a worry in the back of my mind that he's been brought in because the board feels that he'll get the most out of the players in the squad currently, which may negate the need to have a massive change in the playing staff, which I think, regardless of whoever it is that we were bringing in to be the next manager, that has to happen, and that needs to start happening now. As of the January window, we should be looking to moving on players who have either, are deadwood or have ran the race at Rangers, and we should be looking at a much more different Rangers team that lines up for the start of the 22-23 season. Overall, I'd say I'm distinctly fine about it. I think that there's potential for it to work really well. There's potential for it to go really badly. I think from now to the end of the season, I'm still at a point where I think the league's done. So really, what counts as success domestically to now the end of the season, winning the cups and cutting that lead that Celtic have. And I'd say for the 3 remaining games we've got against them, we'll be looking for a net positive there. But yeah, overall, I'm fine with it. I think it's, as Martin says, a sensible appointment. But I think the bigger issue in getting us success is more to do what we do off the pitch.
Stevie, Martin mentioned a good point there, which is about something I banged on about, that there may be a gap between the kind of manager we can get and the kind of manager that the fans think we can get. And you see some of the names that get mentioned that were never realistic possibilities. It does seem that the board, they do. I'll just read you here what Ross Wilson has said in this press release. He said, I am pleased to welcome Michael back to Rangers today. I know how excited he is about everything that comes with the prestige of being Rangers manager. Equally, our players and staff, both at the training ground and at Ibrox, are looking forward to working with Michael. He has a clear plan and will get to work with the group straight away, along with the support staff. Finally, this is a coveted managerial position, and after an intense week of discussions, I wish to extend our sincere thanks to all of the excellent managers who we met to discuss the role. We point out he doesn't say football managers, so it could have been like bar managers and stuff, but I don't get the impression that Rangers really ever seriously looked anywhere else. And is that a sort of tacit admission, perhaps, that maybe a year ago they made a mistake?
I don't think Giovanni Van Bronckhorst's appointment was a mistake, even though it hasn't worked out exactly how we will have liked it to have done so. There's a number of factors in there, so I would never say it was a mistake. He still had some tremendous highs, even though it ended the way it did. So I think the only, I think another way to answer that, David, would possibly be that a year ago we should have looked more in Michael Beale's direction. I know for a fact that the club didn't try and stop that from happening and didn't try and stop him from going with Steven Gerrard. So perhaps there is, like you say, an admission there. But in terms of, I don't think, and I was quite a harsh critic of Giovanni Van Bronckhorst. I don't think it would be fair to say that the last year of his reign was a mistake or anything. So I think that everything happens for a reason. We are where we are. David makes a good point there in terms of we're looking for net positives in terms of the end of the season and things like that. So I get it completely why there might be a wee bit of trepidation and stuff like that, but it is, as Martyn says, it is the most sensible appointment, and it's one that I think we can get behind and understand. The big thing for Mike Beale is that when he first came in, David, it was more a project, and he had time and he had the good grace of the fans and things like that. He's maybe not got that same leeway this time round, which I think might be problematic in terms of expectations and that kind of stuff. So that's a concern for me, and hopefully, he's got a tough run of fixtures coming in, so hopefully we can get that lift and he can get a good bounce off the squad at the start, because that's going to be really important.
Martyn, Michael Beale said, it is fantastic to be back and see everybody this morning. There are some new faces, but some people that I know really well, so it's great to see everyone. I'm hugely proud. It is a wonderful, wonderful football club. It is an institution. For everyone that works here, it is a huge privilege, but to the manager of this football club, that is extremely special. Some wonderful people have sat in the chair prior to me, and I am hugely proud to be the person sat here now. It is perhaps noticeable how much he wanted this job. We've read reports from the London media that he told QPR right at the start, by the way, if Rangers ever come in for me, I am going. And they knew that this was a possibility, which is why it's been a straightforward deal to complete. It's maybe a minor thing, but you do get the impression that this is somebody who could, if successful, and touch wood, we all hope he is, be here for the long term.
Okay, well, there's a couple of things there. I mean, I do not doubt anything that's in that release. I think any interview anyone has ever listened to, since he departed.
And there were a lot of them.
And there were a lot of them. He clearly wanted to be a football manager at some point, a boss in his own right. No issue with that. It's a natural career progression. And this club got under his skin. And that's not being romantic, and it's not being naive. It did. He has a lot of strong feeling for Rangers. The whole situation we're in. I don't think there's a huge amount of love for Celtic. He buys into the whole shooting match. So all of that, no question. I don't think that's just the usual drivel sometimes you hear when there's a new appointment at any level at a football club, and you kind of cliches being rolled out. I think that's genuine. Whether he be there, if he's a success and a quick success, and that's something we might touch upon later, because I think Stevie makes a very good point that Gerrard team, they had 3 years to win a title, for being honest.
Yeah.
And had to rip up not just a team that had maybe grown a bit old, an utter disaster. And that buys a whole lot of time. And we're in a different ball game now. We've won the title. We've been in the European final. We've won the Scottish Cup. So parameters have changed, and it needs to be quick. There really needs to be a cup or two, to be honest, just to keep that momentum going. But if he is successful, wins a couple of cups, narrows that gap, and then wins the title next season, he's an ambitious guy. He'll be off. So whilst that feeling, I have no doubt, is genuine at the moment, and that's I don't think it's just the usual bullshit we hear.
I'm not
it doesn't
sure.
mean he's going to be.
I think there's lifestyle things as well and family things with regard to Glasgow, because he could have been in the Premiership.
Yeah, I know. Well, I think Wolves are I think there's specificities around that specific job.
Yeah,
and
if a glamorous club comes in, then that maybe changes it. Yeah,
but that's fine. Look, we're all winners. And this notion that we're still waiting for, or still looking for, and maybe guys of our generation, Smith and Ferguson and Wenger and these guys that stay forever, those days are done because the players can't cope with that. Players need, well, it appears Rangers players need new messages every 3 months, but modern footballers don't cope with a manager for that length of time usually. You know, Klopp and Pep are kind of exceptions at the minute. Just because of messing, just because they need something fresh. So listen, if he does disappear, it's for good reason, and you know we'll all be beneficiaries of that. But let's maybe focus on the next couple of months rather than the next 4 years.
Can I just add a wee bit to that as well? One of the appointment of Michael Beale to me doesn't suggest a expansive or well thought out football operation. Neither does really the appointment of Giovanni Van Bronckhorst beforehand. Again, as Stevie's rightly saying, I'm not going to criticise the club for the appointment of Van Bronckhorst. I thought at the time it was a decent appointment, and if we weren't getting Michael Beale, my thinking at the time was, well, this seems as good as a continuation from what we had. You know, to keep things going. Didn't really turn out that way, but that's the way it is. The idea that, you know, we all hoped, certainly after the aftermath of 55, is that we have now got the foundations of a successful club, and we'll look to the future and bringing in somebody to fix to us. In a way, we have done that, but I don't know, it seems like we're just trying to go back to what we had in 55, and that is a worry for me still, because I don't see in the overall thinking in the football side of the club this bigger picture, this bigger thinking that we hoped was there.
On that, Dave, what would that have looked like to you? What sort of appointment then what would the criteria be?
Well, see, at this point, I don't think we could have made an appointment to suit that at this point, because I think that vision has been lost somewhere down the line in the last 2 years. At this point, as I said, this was something that I hope would have been in place 2 years ago in the aftermath of winning the league title, where we should have been looking to build on that success and be the dominant club in Scotland for the next few years to come. And at a point when Gerrard left, we're bringing in a new guy to fit our system, and I don't think we have a system. The system that we had was what Steven Gerrard wanted, and now I think we're trying to play catch up to that since Gerrard left, and there wasn't an overall club plan. There was the Steven Gerrard plan, and then now we've been chasing our tails for a year.
Stevie, I've seen a lot of people say Beale knows the players, therefore he won't make the changes that are required, and they are required. Davey mentioned the word deadwood earlier, and I think he's right. We pay a lot of money for guys that we don't really want to use at the moment, and the squad does need overhauled quite badly. From what you know of Mick, and you know him reasonably well, from what you know of him, will that be something he shies away from?
No, I wouldn't think so. Without trying to sound like he's my best friend, he's certainly not. I would say that he's somebody that's kind of been nice enough to me that he's listened. Well, he's certainly listened to me the last 6 months, and we've had a few conversations, David, as you know. So I think that Mick will certainly know what the fans' opinion is, and he'll obviously have his own opinions. He'll know who he can get the best out of and things. But you know, I've seen a lot of people, just as an example, David, I've seen a lot of people say, you know, Ryan Kent can go, Alfredo Morelos can go. There's no doubt in my mind that this board has maybe looked at the situation with them two and went for somebody that can galvanise and get the very best out of them, which I think he can. He knows them both very well, especially Ryan Kent. Now, if Alfredo Morelos goes, there's an argument to say that we have had our money's worth. But if Ryan Kent goes, that's a heavy investment for us, David, that we haven't got anything back from in terms of financially. You can look at on the pitch and say that he has delivered, and that's, you know, certainly a very valid argument. I don't think that he would shy away if the big decisions need made that these guys have to go, for example. So I can see the worry. I can see why people would say he's too close. I would also point to the things he said in other conversations where he said that he knew, or he's not obviously going to come right out and say it, but the interview where he said that with on Daryl Curry. He said that Daryl Curry's podcast. He said that the players maybe that was the pinnacle for them winning the league, and we had to figure out who needed to move on and things like that. I'm pretty sure that he's given that a lot of thought, and he would have known and identified who these players are. He's also seen Rangers. He watches them nearly every game. That's not a secret. So he knows exactly where needs to be strengthened. And I'll go as far as agreeing completely with what the boys have said. And this squad does need ripped up. It does need freshness. There is a staleness to it. It needs new ideas. I don't think he shies away from that at all. What's going to be interesting, though, is the dynamic of Ross Wilson, because Giovanni Van Bronckhorst, I think, made it very clear in his own unique way that he didn't get what he entirely wanted. In fact, he said it to us in a press conference that he worded it as such that sometimes the manager wants something, but the club wants something differently, and you have to think long term. Now that's you can see from the signings that came in, like maybe Yilmaz, etc. So when Beale was here before, it was very much Steven Gerrard. The club did everything for Dave, as you know. So this is going to be an interesting dynamic to see just how much power he has, and that is a concern of everybody, I think, because Ross Wilson's stock is obviously very low at the moment. So that's an interesting thing with it. I think that if Mick Beale gets the players that he wants and he gets to have a free hand and do what he wants with the squad, I think a lot of them, to answer David, your original question, I think a lot of them won't survive.
Martyn, what does success look like this year for Michael Beale?
At least one cup.
In this year.
At least one cup. Possibly both. But we have to see something. I think just because we've kind of been here before. Not obviously, Pedro's a completely different example, but there's a tendency if a manager comes in to something that isn't working, with the league kind of gone, and it is, to say, right, really my work starts in the summer. I need to assess, I need to look at this and that, we need to try a few things, and then we start again this summer. That is theoretically perfect. Doesn't work. Does not work here. Because you have, if it does continue, for example, there's more disappointment as he is assessing and reassessing and moving things around till he can do some proper business in the summer, not just the window, but pre-season, whatever. Rangers, it weighs down if there's further disappointment. So he needs something to launch him into that summer where he can actually really start working. So I think a cup at least is required in order to buy that. Beating them, we want to be completely rudimentary about it and get back to the base level, showing some sign that he has what it takes to match that intensity that they've got and they've found. And again, you carry that forward. You carry that into their mind as well, that this is going to be something different. Personally, I don't think that... I've got a lot of confidence actually in the head-to-heads that he'll be fine. Certainly talked a good game around that. Very, very sure that Rangers would have won the league if they'd stayed. My issue is more about some of the other bread and butter stuff, because we talked umpteen times over certainly the last 6 months, the lethargic, ponderous side to side, we don't have any ideas how to beat a low block. This was nothing new to Rangers over the last 4 years. So if he is the mastermind behind how to win in Scotland and how to beat pretty much the same opposition every week, I hope he's got some new plans.
No, I think that's very fair. And David, last question then for you. Beale is in now. We've spoken about Rangers being quite proud that he is only our 18th permanent manager, and we are all quite proud of that. But it is unusual, and it's an increasing anomaly. Is that something, in other countries, managers change quite rapidly? Is that something that perhaps, we don't want it to happen, but the way that football has gone, Martyn touched on earlier, a manager who fails obviously goes. A manager who succeeds in Scotland might also go. Is it something we'll just have to get our heads around?
Yeah, I mean, I think so. I don't think there's much more we can do about it. If we're sitting here in 12 months' time and we're in the exact same position again, then there won't be many of us clamouring for Beale to stay. Um, the flip side of that, if we're 18 months down the line and we're in the position to win the league, we win a couple this season, and he's had a good start, then there are going to be teams back in England and the English Premiership looking at him again, and that's just the way of it. As you know, we all said we'd love him to be here for 5-10 years and be successful, winning the league every year, but it's just not the way of football now. Certainly not in Scotland. But it goes back to the point I was making earlier. It is one of my concerns that the people who are in charge of these things should be thinking, right, what's the plan after Michael Beale? And I think that's been part of the problem. We didn't really have a plan after Steven Gerrard. There needs to be an idea of, right, what does Rangers look like 5 years down the line, 10 years down the line, and regardless of who the manager is, that's guys like Ross Wilson's job to make sure that we're in that good position for the next 5 to 10 years.
Excellent. Right. Well, thank you very, very much, gentlemen, for joining me. I think that all the issues that have been raised tonight are fair. All the opinions are fair. We'd like to hear from you and let us know in the comments. And of course, I suppose the best way to sign off is with best wishes to the new Rangers manager. And of course, you can follow his journey as Rangers boss here on Heart and Hand. Talk to you again soon, guys. Bye-bye. That was a Heart and Hand production.